Dr. Stan Dunagan is with us again. Hey, Stan, how are you, buddy?
Good.
Hey, I am doing great. You see those puppies?
They're pretty cute. I like that little female puppy. She's
Needs to go to Dunagan Farms?
no.
What?
I've got a dog, so no, we're good.
Oh, I think Stephanie said that one probably should go to Dunagan Farms. No, different Stephanie.
Yeah, different Stephanie. Yeah.
Why do you have two Stephanies?
I don't.
What'd you?
There's more than one Stephanie though.
But you have two?
No, I do not. I just have one.
Okay. All right, Stan.
Have you filled up your car lately?
Oh, I do. I have. Yes.
You enjoying that process?
I don't enjoy that process at all. No. When I fill it up, I can just feel the money just flowing out of my bank account just quickly. It is depressing. And I'm glad that at this point, I don't have a diesel. There was a time whenever diesel was king and people were wanting the diesel engine. Right now, it seems like diesel is on the upward swing.
Well, the problem with diesels are great, very efficient engine. The problem, of course, is the price of diesel relative to gasoline.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if you're like me and I've got a diesel truck, right now it's more painful.
A lot painful. What is diesel up at about over $5 a gallon?
Yeah, so I've seen it in Paris anywhere from, I think I saw it $5.19 this morning on the south side, and anywhere from about $5.19 to $5.30 or so.
Wow, and that's the high at diesel record was only about 30 or 40 cents more a gallon. Is that right?
Usually it tracks a little bit. Well, are you talking about overall?
Overall.
Yeah, I don't honestly remember because I hadn't had a diesel truck for very long.
Yeah.
So this is I'm used to it being high $2 range.
Oh,
and then
that's
there was
way higher than $2.
Yeah. So yeah, it's caused me to rethink. Do I need to get a used car that gets better gas mileage?
Yeah, I remember in 2000, right leading up to 2008, when a barrel of gas was up at, or barrel of oil was up at about almost $150.
Yeah. Well, I think
a barrel,
I think
$135,
yeah,
something
120s
like that.
or so. Yeah.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
And that's whenever I got my first hybrid, coming into around 2010. Of course, it had gone back down, but I was already changing my mindset because I didn't want to be stuck like that again in a position where I was beholden to that climbing gas price.
Right. So I've done the EV car. I've done electric car, and that was no fun. I'll be honest with you early on. But, what I have found in talking with people is they don't really get a clear understanding of where oil comes from and why.
Drill here now.
Well,
isn't that it? It comes from.
Well, it comes from sand. Mm-hmm. You should smell this. This actually smells pretty good. That's petroleum from Texas.
Okay. So this is
crude
black
oil,
gold?
Texas tea. Yep.
Texas tea.
It's kind of sweet, and West Texas oil is some of the best in the world. And so I made up this little mock-up, and so you can go. Basically, they're drilling down, typically anywhere from 3 to 15, 20,000 feet down, and then pulling, microscopic bits of oil from microscopic pores.
Okay.
And then if Kevin will go back to that original picture, image graph thingamajiggy,
there we go.
So you can see when you have one barrel of oil, then you can only make about half of that will make gasoline. Mm-hmm. And then you take whatever the remainder is, and the distillates in that one, that's the diesel. And everything else then is derived from that, including plastics. Mm-hmm. And what we have kind of seen with diesel is that much of that process, which is a pretty messy chemical process, we've outsourced, and we've been bringing diesel in from other countries. including
When you say diesel,
Yeah.
so we're actually bringing in the
refined diesel fuel
product.
Yes.
Okay.
And so we've actually started bringing that in. I'm trying to think of the year. It actually started with Clinton, and then has slowly increased throughout the last several presidential administrations, bringing in from Russia as well as some other locations, and that helped kind of keep prices down in the U.S. market, and then allowed then the manufacture of some other materials from that petroleum. And now that diesel is not on the market, and
because we're at war with that
well,
country,
we're not in war with anybody, right?
That's true. I don't know. I don't know. I've forgotten what the definition of war is now. As the United
Congress
States
is supposed to
defines
declare
it.
that. Is
I know
that
that. I know how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
But the military has been out there quite a bit for a lot of decades.
Yeah. So, what I tell people, and people could fight about it if that's what they wanted to, but if you could allow Russian oil and Russian diesel back in, then your price would come back down. Period.
It's a supply and demand,
Right.
is it not?
Right. And so the price for this material right now in Europe and in Asia is way more than what it is here. And so now U.S. producers are seeing that it's worth the transport costs to send it to Europe or Asia because of the price differential.
And I think I'm glad we're touching on this about where it comes from. Where does all of or a lot of our oil come from? So you've got a graph up here or illustration.
I love this. So it shows basically that it scales all the countries based on how much total oil they have. And basically, like say Canada, this graph or this picture is a little bit out of date. Canada has about 170 billion barrels of oil. That's the GBBL. The U.S., that number is also a little lower. It should be about 47. But you can see the big players are Venezuela and Saudi Arabia. Most people have no clue that Venezuela has way more oil than Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
And that number, 300 billion barrels, is probably, it's not a low end, but there's probably more there.
So do they not have the infrastructure in place in Venezuela? The government, there's reasons why Venezuela is not a huge exporter.
So with Venezuela, they basically kicked out non-Venezuelan oil companies back, who was that dictator? Back during about 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah,
I can't remember
somebody.
Somebody. Anyway, one of the dictators that kicked out ExxonMobil and all the rest of them and nationalized the petroleum products, and all the drilling and production went way down. And so what's funny is Venezuela, because their oil is most similar to Canada, and this is actually good for the U.S., it is very difficult to process and very expensive to ship. So even though we're kind of, economically and politically against, our government is against Venezuela, they ship we're their only customer. They don't ship it anywhere else in the world.
Wow. So
we have
the
their
process.
only major.
So you said that it's difficult. So it's difficult to refine.
Yeah, it is. Their oil is, so this is easy to process. Theirs has not been buried as deep. And so Mother Nature did not do a lot of the refining process. And so it's akin to a black solid.
Like Atari.
Yes.
Not Atari video game, but a
tar
substance.
Yes, and that's what the Canadian oil sands or tar sands are like that too. It's much more expensive, energy intensive to process into petroleum, to go from almost a semi-liquid to a solid to what you want for like the Texas stuff.
Okay. In terms of having something, so that chart that you put up there just a second ago that showed all the countries and the amount of oil that they have doesn't necessarily equate to the fact that they're producing or that they're even in a position to distribute or ship.
Right.
And I think that's a weird dynamic, because that graph or that concept that Saudi Arabia has all this oil and we should make friends with them, or we should play with them, or we should trade with them as a trade partner. And I think globally we should trade with everybody unless there's, they've got some sort of an issue, but that we don't agree with. But in terms of, we don't need all of it, do we?
Yeah, we do.
We need it all?
We need the Venezuelan oil. We need the Saudi Arabian oil.
But we don't need 300. What was that? 300
300,
billion?
no. We don't. We only and that's oil that's in the ground. They know where it's at, and they can't extract it. But it's going to take a long time to extract it. And so, the Saudi Arabian oil, most of their oil goes to the Middle East. Asia. And so, but you can see on reserves, that's oil that where we know where it is. We're 10th. And what I always tell people is look at that list and count the friends that we have on that list, solid allies. And I would say there's one.
There is Canada.
Yeah. I always talk about our friends to the north, and we are very fortunate to have those oil reserves there.
These are some numbers that I got, and they're 2021 numbers from the U.S. Energy Information Administration. I think you reference a lot of that.
Yeah.
It said that in what we import, the part of the oil that we import, we get about 62% of our import from Canada and about 10% from Mexico. So about 72 combined from two other countries on the North American continent.
Right.
So the other 27% or 25%, let's just say 25%, comes from potentially Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Russia.
Mostly Venezuela, the Middle East, then the North Sea being UK, Norway, and then Russia. Those are the 5 primaries.
Yeah, and can we just get Canada to increase production and cut the rest of the other places off?
You would probably need, that's possible, theoretically.
Because they got quite a bit too.
They do.
That showed
the
a lot
ideal
up
situation
there.
would be to, not that I'm for a regime change in Canada or anything like that, but if you
We'll
had...
just make that the 51st state. Is that what you were proposing?
No, I was not proposing that.
I kind of felt that.
Maybe Venezuela. That would actually be wiser.
That would be good. Do they have coastline in Venezuela?
Oh, yeah.
They do.
They have mountains.
Mountains?
It's gorgeous.
It is.
Lots of oil.
Lots of oil.
Yes. But
I got an idea.
What's that?
We're gonna create a puppet government, and we're gonna put you at the chart and lead and be like a banana republic kind of thing. All those terms that it's always gone on down there.
I think you would look better in one of those Panama Jack hats than me. Maybe you should do that.
Okay, but anyway, go ahead.
Let's look at production because that's pretty cool. So when I started talking with my students about this years ago, the United States we're first now, and we're on top of it. I mean, we're killing Saudi Arabia and Russia in terms of production. That means every single day that's 18,000 barrels. So over 18 million.
And
every day. Every day.
That's amazing.
And so when I started this back in like 2009 or so, it says down there at the bottom, we were doing half of what we're doing. So we have, something special happened in 2008, 2009.
Wow, something special happened in 2008, 2009. Let's see. Wow. Did we have a new president change or was
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And so before that our production was in a decline.
Production was in just a nice steady decline.
But we had a Texas oil man up there.
And his dad before that.
So those guys knew everything there was to know about oil.
The oil really kind of peaked in the 70s, and that we were on the downward slide, and we're never going to make
those
as much oil.
guys knew what was going on. They were oil guys. That's the reason.
Well, they were Texas guys.
They were Texas guys.
And what set it apart was this North Dakota guy.
Oh.
And Obama kind of allowed that to go on and really change the dynamic of production.
So in 2008, 2009, we took a drastic uptick in production of diesel and other oil
Or at least
products.
petroleum. And the big thing there is some of it's normal production, like sucking it out of the sand here, but a lot of it is fracking, and fracking has a bad reputation. But not all of it's warranted, and I cannot imagine how high gas would be if we did not do fracking in this country. It would be. I just can't imagine how high it would be.
Well, we cut out transportation costs right off the bat. Anything that we do here, right? So but there's a little bit of an offset, a lot bit of an offset, I would say, in terms of if we are producing here and we don't have to have the transportation costs associated and tariffs and trade and all the other things that intermingle with the cost. It makes a lot of sense if we can produce more here.
So we're really good at production. We're a little bit better at consumption.
We're really good at consumption. I saw your truck.
Yeah.
That thing consumes a lot, doesn't it?
I'm sure it
Come
does.
on. It's,
I did see when the McCords came in, I think they came in a nice little Subaru.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I wonder what kind of miles per hour they
a
get with
lot.
that.
I bet they're bumping 40.
I wonder if I adopted those puppies, if I could get that Subaru. But consumption, if you look at that, we're on top. That's fine.
Oh, we're
and
winning.
My numbers are a little cut off the side, but we're within. We produce 90% of what we need.
Yeah, we do.
And so whenever you hear a politician talk about energy independence or dependence, whichever side they're talking, most of the time either they're lying or they don't know what they're talking about.
That is what they do most of the time.
But
irregardless of the topic.
yeah, well, with energy, that's my thing. So, but the problem is we're so close to true energy independence, and I'm not saying we should go there, but we export a lot of energy to other countries, and we haven't nationalized the energy production or anything like that, so we can't just keep it in-house. But it's good to export because that keeps people on friendly terms with the U.S.
Yeah, so...
And we're helping out our European neighbors right now.
Right. And there has to be a little bit of that import-export, I would think, because we need some sort of a trade mechanism, because we may want to buy their oil, so they will purchase something else. So, and have some sort of a trade in there, and same way with what we purchase. We may want to purchase somebody's oil, which it's always baffled me, because I think we have enough to produce. It's just there's no sense in bringing it all online so that we can have some trade.
Well, in some cases, it's really easy. Saudi Arabia can produce oil so much cheaper than us. The wells are shallower. Even though the oil is not quite as high quality as West Texas crude, it can be extracted real cheap. And so oftentimes it makes a ton of sense for them to extract it and then ship it halfway around the world to us to refine. And it just makes sense based on the economics. And with the Russian-Ukraine thing right now, the problem is, we're saying we're not going to take oil from different people, and we've had countries that have to line up behind us and say, okay, we're not going to take this oil, but then that has sent prices up for Europeans, sent prices up for a lot of Asian countries. I mean, Bangladesh had 92 million people that were without power a few days ago because of nationwide blackouts. And that was just half the population was impacted by these blackouts. And they say it's going to get worse because they're not getting the natural gas, because the natural gas they usually would get from the Middle East is now the Middle Eastern natural gas is going to the European market because they can pay higher rates.
They can pay higher rates. How much of the energy has been disrupted, do you think, because of that war in Europe and globally?
It's changed things significantly. I'm not that up on the politics and the economics of this, but I know the Russian ruble is where it was before the war. the sanctions that we have on Russian gas and oil have not impacted them, in my opinion, significantly. It's impacted Americans and the rest of the world much more significantly. So the question is, why are we doing that? I would question the legitimacy of that policy as to why don't we open up to Russian products and gas. The Europeans will be happy. The price will go down as more is on the market, and Russia will be making less money. Right now, Russia's making as much money as they were prior to this, just in different markets. We've just excluded ourselves from the market.
Yeah, we have. We've excluded ourselves, and I agree with you. What real impact have we made? Whenever I look at the numbers that I had, Stan, we imported 3% of our oil.
Yeah, it was a minor.
It's
thing.
minor.
But-
now for the Europeans, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I understand that. But that is a little off topic on the politics of that. But
we are making up that market loss, and there was a significant market loss with the lack of the Russian oil going to Europe, and that because they were the biggest recipient of Russian oil.
I noticed something as I was doing a little bit of research, and I've always been curious about this, is our U.S. military. And I've joked with you some about our markets in the world and our place in the world, and I think our military, kind of keeps everything in check. But they consume a tremendous amount of energy. Our military, based off of what I saw, is the largest consumer of petroleum by themselves. Larger than, if you take them out of the United States, they are the largest consumer of petroleum than any country by themselves, just the military.
I would not dispute that. I haven't seen those numbers, but I'm not surprised to hear that.
Which is, again, the war machine. I go back to that thing that Hitler was doing. And I'm not comparing us to Germany or anything, but I'm saying that a strong military requires a lot of resources. And that strong military provides this network.
The base of any strong military, the base of any strong economy is energy. And this is the form that we use for transportation largely. The Navy uses some nuclear power ships, but everything else is going to be jet fuel or diesel for the most part.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. And what you brought up, I can't think of something popped in about the military and about the consumption of what it is that they use. How much, I can't think of what it was. It left me, Stan. Does that ever happen to you?
All the time.
Does it?
Usually, I just can't hear what somebody says. Like me and Stephanie are talking, and we're like, what, and stuff like that. So anyway.
It happens. Is there a replacement for petroleum? Is this part of what we see in the near future, the distant future? Will it always be a petroleum-driven energy market? Well, that's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we derive 80% of the energy in the United States, just primary energy, electricity, transportation, everything, is derived from fossil fuels. So some coal, some petroleum, some natural gas. I love what Nick Fields and others are doing with solar. I've been interested in that for a while and thought, man, I'd love to have that out at the barn. But base load, I don't see how we're going to replace that.
Yeah.
My hope with the problems that we're having with energy right now is that somebody in Washington will decide to quit fighting over social issues. I'm just going to say it. And that nobody agrees on. You get a family around the table on Thanksgiving, and they're going to fight about social issues. Let's do something else that we can all agree on. Energy's too expensive. Let's do something to fix that and come up with a policy, not that's going to change every 2 to 4 years, but on social issues, but let's come up with an energy policy for 30 years, because then energy companies can make an investment. And pipelines and transportation and ports and refineries, because that's what any sane leadership would want.
Wow.
How about that for a non-answer?
Well, I think that's a great answer, because if we all got along, then nobody would give politicians any money. They'd just they'd be up there filling a role and everything.
I don't know.
I kind of agree with you, though. There's no point in arguing over it, because the example that I use is our transportation bills that we put out as a nation. Now, things get tapped into it, but we have in the state of Tennessee, for instance, we have a fuel tax.
Right.
And it funds transportation. Tennessee DOT is one of the only states left that does not operate in debt. They do not borrow at all in order to build roads. There's some special projects here and there, but even then, they are using dollars that they have in place based off of something that was put into place decades ago. Now, politicians, what happens is that they see a big pile of money there and they bring up social issues of some sort to try to muddy it, say, well, we'll pull some of that and siphon it off. And it happens at the federal level. And if we could get together and quit bickering about, like
or
the
just
drill
agree
here.
that I think you're totally wrong about issue X, but let's together work on
Exactly.
what we need to do. For example, the whole East Coast is undrillable. I mean, you can't even, not only can you not drill it, but you can't look there. You can't drive a ship over and remotely even look at the rocks.
What? What is that? What do you mean? Is this a barrier? Is this something in place?
This is
policy,
a legal precedent,
precedent
that presidents have put in place, as well as Congress has said, thou shalt not look for oil off the coast from Maine down to Florida, period.
Well, it's because there's a big pile of it down there.
I mean, there's probably not a huge pile, but there's some. I guarantee there's some, because it's the same basic rocks that are in Texas and Louisiana, Mississippi, same basic deposits. But I mean, they've made a political decision, which puts us where we are, where we won't even look. We could allow them to look and then decide, it's not worth it. Like Alaska National Wildlife Refuge, we've allowed them to look. And then, honestly, it's not that much.
Yeah.
It's probably not worth it, honestly.
Yeah.
But I would think a wise, sane leadership would allow someone to look to see if a resource is present or not.
Yeah. Yeah. The politics of it does get in the way, and people don't care, do they?
Well, I would say they genuinely care until they're filling up their car and it's costing them $40 and it used to cost them $20.
And then they confuse social
Then they want to fight about dumb stuff.
Dumb stuff.
Well, maybe not dumb
Maybe
stuff.
not
It's
dumb
important
to
to
them,
them, but it has no
doesn't have any
no
bearing.
relevance to what's
Right.
going on there.
Yeah.
And it's okay to disagree on the social stuff, in my opinion. But we're not going to be able to convince Saudi Arabia to send us more oil, because they send 10 times as much to 4 other countries. So they don't care. I mean, when we say, you better do this, they're probably laughing in the background, no matter who's president, because we are one of their smaller customers.
Right.
We need to move forward and get beyond them so that we're not playing these little games.
Are we going to run out of diesel fuel?
No.
That's what they say on TV.
I don't believe what they say on TV most
Really?
of the time. No.
That's what they're saying.
Well, It's going to go
Who
up.
says that, though?
I don't know who says
Why do they
crap.
say that?
To scare people.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they're mean.
I think it's so they run out and buy it at $5 a gallon.
Probably. And I mean, I don't know why they say the things they do, but oil or diesel, we're shipping a lot to help out our European allies, and that's not helping things. The most likely scenario is that it's going to go up in price.
No.
Yes.
It's going to keep going up.
Yeah. I'm not going to make a price prediction now.
Well, it makes sense, though, because the demand is not curbing, and if the supply is limited, it would continue to.
I was talking with Kevin beforehand. He was like, we've had decades and this hadn't been a problem, but at the same time, when you and I were growing up, when we were little, there were like 260 million Americans. Mm-hmm. Now there's 340 million. Mm-hmm. There's 80 more million of people. They're not all driving cars, but we've increased production, but we have got to have a plan. I mean,
we do have to have.
You're an engineer. Plans are important,
Wait a minute.
right?
Hold on. Oh, I thought you were putting all this off on me. I was going to say, Ricky Bobby, back up now. I wish that evil on me.
Plans are nice, right?
Yeah, they are. I agree with you.
What if
and
you
that's
were to
what I was
build a
talking
road
about.
or a building with no plan? What kind?
We'd be an architect. Is what I'd be.
Oh, man.
But I agree with you, Stan. A plan, and that's why I referenced the transportation world, because the transportation world does operate more like that over a longer period of time, and a small amount of money building up over a period of time for a common goal, which is maintain the transportation network.
Longer time preference.
Yeah.
That is key.
That is. It is. It's key. Stan, the man. Hey, did I tell you? I forgot to tell you. I had Nick Fields on the other day.
Yep.
You were mentioning that. And of course, we were talking about solar and
Yep.
everything. And we got to talking about when would you need solar, what's solar good for, and everything. And he talked about in some sort of catastrophic event that it'd be good to have power, and you could maybe warm up a little bit, and if you've got power, you could invite your friends over, and
Sure.
they could charge up their cell phones and everything. I told him you were going to shoot me if I came over your house in some sort of disaster.
Well, I don't think I said specifically I would shoot you, did I?
I don't know. I asked if I could come over, and
I told you just maybe don't come.
is that what it is?
I think that's what I said.
Man,
But if you want to, I'll
run an extension cord out for me.
Tell Nick to bring me some solar panels, and I'll send a cord out
Okay, I can do that.
to the Indicator Road.
All right. And golly, man, you got me way out there. That's a long way.
No, you can come visit.
Oh, good. Guilted you into that.
I did.
All right. Hey, Stan, I love it. Thank you for
You're
coming
welcome,
on.
man. Glad to be here.
That was good info, good insight. I hope that we were able to communicate a little bit of information, a little bit of insight to everybody, or at least get people thinking.
Sure.
Think about this.
Reach out to your leaders and say, hey, this is important to me. I'm tired of paying this money for gas. I mean, it's not going to end next year or the year after, but tell them that's important and to make a long-term plan.
Absolutely. Ladies, gentlemen, Stan Dunagan here, bringing us some information on energy, and sure going to have Stan back again to talk about something else in the future. Maybe we'll talk about another energy source. I'd like to get him on natural gas specifically, because I think that's a big one for us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Terry for our upcoming announcements. Miss Terry.
Well, thank you, Patrick. Hey, welcome to Paris News Now. I'm Terry Lynn Keel. And Patrick, with the cold and flu season coming along here right around the corner, the authorities are expecting major outbreaks all around the country. So the Henry County Health Department will be administering free drive-through flu vaccines tomorrow, Wednesday, at 803 Joy Street here in Paris from 9 a.m. till, well, we're not really sure till, but for the kickoff of the Flu 22 campaign drive. So no appointments are necessary. Vaccines will continue to be free at the health department after the drive-through event has completed. And the downtown Unwrapped Christmas event continues the rest of this week with the Passport to Christmas all the way through till December 10th. I believe I did see Patrick starting his passport the other day, so be sure to get out there and get yours and get shopping. And just the other day, you actually got yours, Patrick, at Jack Jones. I'm so proud of you. I got to get out there myself. Other great events are scheduled as well, so be sure to check out the calendar posted all around town and on the Downtown Paris Association Facebook page. With all the leaves collecting around our streets, I'm sure you're looking for a way to dispose of them. The Paris Public Works Department will be picking up leaves on an as-needed basis. So to be placed on your pickup list, simply text 731-333-9584 or call 731-642-0473. They'll make quick work of it for you, but you do still have to rake your yard yourself. Sorry about that. Anyway, also, the Lifeline Blood Services is celebrating 75 years of saving lives, and the Blood Mobile will be here in Paris one more time this month, Friday, November the 21st. I'm sorry, the 25th. And that's the day after Thanksgiving at Joe Mahon Ford next to Lowe's from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So get on over there. Give the gift of life this holiday season. There really is no better gift to give. And don't forget about the special offer still going on at the Parisian Movie Theater. Every Monday throughout the month of November, the admission will continue to be only $5. And if you go, please be sure to thank them for this very special Thanksgiving gift. Also, don't forget to send us any email if there is an event or important news story that you want us to cover, or if you have any other information you'd like us to share, or a suggestion for a guest to appear on the show. But mostly, we want to see your submissions to the Great Mullet Challenge Championship. Tell your friends and spread the word and send them to gooddayparistn@gmail.com.